I want you to meet Pam Queen. Pam Queen serves as a delegate to the Maryland House of Delegates, representing Maryland's 14th legislative district in northern Montgomery County. Pam Queen is currently trying to push Maryland House Bill 704. This bill would require, and I quote, for the purpose of prohibiting a person from engaging in a certain bulk firearm transfer unless each firearm that is part of the transfer contains a certain tracker, requiring a seller or other transferor who engages in a bulk firearm transfer to transmit to the Secretary of State Police certain information, providing that a violation of this act is a civil offense, requiring the Secretary to establish a certain database, and generally relating to tracking technology for firearms. And no, it gets worse. The bill also says that this embedded tracker should not readily be capable of being removed, disabled, or destroyed without rendering permanently inoperable or destroying the frame or receiver. But we haven't even got to the good part. The bill also says the Secretary shall establish a database to store information about each bulk firearm transfer in the state. So, in short, she wants to install LoJack on your gun and then send all of the information to the government. Tell me you haven't read the Constitution without telling me you haven't read the Constitution. This is goofy. I can't tell if she's too dumb to know she's saying the quiet part out loud or she just doesn't care. Stuff like this is the exact reason we don't want universal background checks. You can't effectively enforce a universal background check unless you have a universal database of all the guns to check it against. That's why they're trying to push for universal background checks, because they know inevitably they'll have to say, well, it doesn't work because now we need a national gun registration. Hence, a backdoor way to getting gun registration. But Queenie over here is like, nah, forget all that sneaking around. Just go ahead and put a chip in everybody's gun and then send all the information to the government. The same government that has demonstrated time and time again that if they could, they would confiscate all of our guns.
So to gun owners out there who say, well, a Biden administration means they're going to come for my guns.
Bingo. You're right if you have an assault weapon.
Do you believe in the mandatory buyback of quote-unquote assault weapons?
I do believe that we need to do buybacks, and I'll tell you why. They are weapons of war with no place on the streets of a civil society.
I will give the United States Congress 100 days to get their act together and have the courage to pass reasonable gun safety laws, and if they fail to do it, then I will take executive action.
Thank you, but no thank you, Miss Queenie. What's the whole point of having a Second Amendment that was written to give us the ability to fight back against a tyrannical government if that same government knows exactly where all of my guns are all the time and can essentially make them useless at the flip of a switch? Besides, what crime do you think this is going to solve? You have 14-year-olds running around with switches on their Glocks that turn them into machine guns that they made at home. You think they won't find a way to disable these goofy trackers embedded in the gun? There will be an online instruction guide on how to disable these things in 3 days. And I haven't even talked about the massive invasion of privacy that this is. But if you ask me, the real purpose behind this is to make guns too expensive to manufacture and sell. It's literally what California is doing with their so-called gun roster. Before a gun can be sold in California, it has to meet some random and nonsensical set of so-called safety requirements, such as micro-stamping. Well, see, the thing about micro-stamping is not only has it been proven not to work, it's incredibly expensive for a gun manufacturer to put micro-stamping on their firearms. That is why you don't see a lot of gun manufacturers being able to sell guns in California, because it's too expensive. And the vast majority of the guns that are sold in California are really only from the biggest gun companies that can afford to sell guns in California. That's what this whole tracker nonsense is. It's just another way of jacking up the cost that it takes to produce and sell a firearm. Because even if a company decides to engage and take on the added expenses of putting these stupid trackers on the gun, they're just gonna pass that price along to the retailer. And then the retailer has to pass that price on to us, thus jacking up the price of the gun to such an extent, the only people who will be able to buy them will be the elites. Regular people won't be able to afford these guns. That's the point. They want to take the guns out of the hands of the masses of people. And that's why the Second Amendment was written, so that the masses of people could have guns to fight back against a possible tyrannical government. You see how this kind of come all full circle? Then there's the fact that the technology doesn't even really exist. And that's the problem. These politicians who are slaves to the gun control lobby don't know anything about guns. They don't know how they work. They don't know how to use them. And most of the time, they don't own them. So how are you going to try to pass a bill about something you clearly don't know anything about? And that's just it. It's not about actually finding a solution to keep people safe. It's about finding a solution to ban guns that sounds like it'll keep people safe. But in reality, the only goal is to ban guns.
You know, we talk a lot about empowerment in this country, except for when it comes to the Second Amendment. However, I can't think of anything more empowering than having the most effective tool to protect you and your family. So help me spread this message by liking and sharing this video with everyone you know. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment, because the Second Amendment, when it said militia, it wasn't talking about the government. It was talking about you. Also, if you want to know where to find the I'm the Militia shirt and merchandise, click the I'm the Militia link in the description section of this video.
And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And most importantly, make sure you hit that bell symbol.